Hi everybody, I'm Jared Pike. This is Shell Point Today for Wednesday, September 4th. On today's show, Carol Clark tells us why it's so important to visit the medical center for an annual wellness visit. We'll also meet Kay Goodchild, whose parents were the first permanent residents on North Captiva Island. But first, do you know someone with COPD, emphysema, or other breathing disorders? Are you concerned that utilizing oxygen may affect your independence here at Shell Point? Well, you're not the only one who has dealt with these issues. In fact, we have a support group meeting tomorrow specifically dealing with oxygen concentrators and other paraphernalia. Now, if you or someone you know is dealing with oxygen tanks because of a lung disorder, then don't go it alone. Learn from those who have been there, like Jack Hubbard, who gets around Shell Point just fine, even after using oxygen for the last 10 years. Find out more by attending the Oxygen Support Group, meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. in the Woodlands Oak Room. There's no cost, just come on down. Maintaining your health and independence for as long as possible is not just your goal, but it's Shell Point's goal as well. With this in mind, our medical center offers annual wellness visits where you can discuss with your doctor what you may be facing in the coming year and how best to address all those issues. It's not just a traditional annual physical. In fact, you spend an hour with your doctor, where most patients in Lee County only get mere minutes with their doctor. And the best part? These wellness visits are free, completely covered by Medicare. Carol Clark, Shell Point's medical center manager, tells us why you should make an appointment for your wellness visit.
The annual wellness exam is also one thing that Medicare put into place because they showed that it actually works. If you come in once a year to have the physician review with you what the mammogram was, what the colonoscopy was, what the chest x-ray was, or any other visits that you've had with other specialists, you kind of come in for a review session. You have a little vision test, a little memory test, and it's a 50-minute appointment where you and the provider have a chance to just kind of talk about what's gone on in the last year. Medicare believes that piece is important because the doctor reviews all the other specialists that you've been to and sets your plan for the year to come. So if you've had, let's just say, a question about how many times do I have to have mammography, how many times do I have to have pap smears, how many times do I have to have a PSA drawn, you can have all of those annual types of things reviewed and then set a plan for what works when you're 80, what works when you're 85, when do I have to stop doing all these things, or what should I start doing in order to stay well. The other place for this wellness service is fitting just like a glove with our MyQuest program here at Shell Point. It isn't that your provider needs to know that you're trying to walk 10,000 steps every day with your pedometer. They're not going to pry into that. But what they would like to know is, what are your MyQuest goals and how can I help you achieve them? So if you get out on the path around the island and you start to feel sweaty and a little pressure in your chest when you're halfway around, then you might want to come to the provider and say, this is my goal. I want to do these many steps, but I'm not feeling so well when I get about halfway around the island. That would be a good time to say, this is my MyQuest goal, but I'm struggling to achieve it. And then get your provider to help you with that. It's a very nice opportunity to have more than 10 minutes or more than 20 minutes with your provider because you're actually with them for almost an hour reviewing what the last year has been about and what the next year needs to be about. The annual wellness visit is no out-of-pocket expense. Unless you're less than 65, then you'd want to wait till you are 65. It includes the basic assessment of health status, review of goals for weight, blood pressure, and exercise, and some of the screening tests. Be careful in your language to not call it that annual physical. We can't call it an annual physical either because it goes in the garbage can at Medicare. They don't pay for an annual physical anymore, and they would just reject it and then send you the bill for a couple $100. The all-important wellness visit. Schedule the annual wellness. It's in your best interest, and it will help you organize your plan for health. Organize your medications and supplements. Bring them with you in a little caddy to every visit. Communicate your MyQuest goals and partner with your provider on this matter of how much exercise you'd like to be able to do and whether or not you should be cleared for certain types of endurance. And avoid my list of complaints and focus each visit on the main problem you need help with. The Shell Point Medical Center wants to be there for you at all times. And we are staffed with either someone there in the medical center or on call 24/7. So I've had several people say, well, it was Friday night, so I didn't call until Monday. And by that time, their shingles or their cough or their sore throat or whatever was full blown. So please remember that someone can be available to help you 24/7.
Well, the new Susie Q boat tours are going strong all through the month of September. And not only that, but we're altering the schedule based on your recommendations. Here are the waterfront destinations you can visit for just $5 by riding on the Susie Q. Mondays at 10 a.m., the Susie Q will depart for Fort Myers Beach and the lunch destination of Nervous Nellies. Monday afternoons at 3 p.m., Susie Q passengers can enjoy an early dinner cruise to Rum Runners in Cape Coral. On Tuesdays at 9 a.m., the Susie Q focuses on nature with a dolphin sightseeing tour. Then, Tuesdays at 11 a.m., they offer a lunch trip to Rum Runners. On Thursdays at 10 a.m., they visit a new destination, Woody's Waterside Grill, on the shores of Pine Island. And for 2 Fridays a month, the Susie Q embarks on an adventurous trip to North Captiva with lunch at Barnacle Phil's. Now, to register for a Susie Q trip, just call 454-2136. And if you'd like to charter the Susie Q for a court party or a large family group, hey, we can do that too. Just contact Melody at 454-2290, and she can make all the arrangements. But for the normal $5 Susie Q scheduled cruises, sign up by calling 454-2136. Now, we mentioned North Captiva on the list of destinations. North Captiva is one of those mysterious nearby islands that has no bridges to the mainland and, in fact, no cars allowed at all. This kind of tropical isolation appeals to some people, as it did to Russ and Thelma Reed, the parents of Shell Point resident Kay Goodchild. Kay's parents moved to North Captiva in 1970, becoming the island's first ever permanent residence. Of course, being so far away from civilization had its ups and downs, but it was always an adventure. Kay got to experience those adventures firsthand, and even after her parents died, they continued to have family reunions on North Captiva every year. Let's hear about Kay's adventures on North Captiva.
I was born in Detroit, Michigan, at my grandmother's house. And we lived in Detroit for quite a while, and then we moved to Warren, Michigan. Before we moved into our home in Warren, Michigan, Dad had to build it. So I stayed with my aunt and started 9th grade at Warren High School while Dad was building our first house. My dad, when I remember, was manager of B&B Chevrolet in Detroit, Michigan. Then he went to work for Garwoods. They made cars, and he did the carpentry on it of modeling, making the model cars. And while he worked there, he made me a beautiful jewelry box. He could do anything. And he did do anything. He would hoist a motor up on the tree, over the tree limb, and put it in a car and take out the old one, put in the new one. I mean, he did everything. We used to go to Florida on our summer vacations. I thought that was the season in Florida. We would go up near Hollywood, and we went to the miniature golf on the beach, and we went to the concessions, and we went to Lion Country Safari, everything. We just had a blast. Moved to Florida in 1957, the day I graduated high school, after many vacations in Florida. And it was pretty hard meeting anybody at that time because I had no school to go to. We lived in Pompano Beach in Crest Haven, which was a little house. And Dad bought himself a gas station, and we had a great grand opening there, and it was a lot of fun. And then Dad bought a garage. They didn't sell gas, but they did all kinds of work in the garage. Dad had a bicycle shop, and there was an apartment attached to it. He was putting in a furnace one time in the apartment all by himself, and it was up high. So he levered it. He got the whole furnace up there all by himself. He's just amazing. All of a sudden, Mom and Dad said they found an island and they were buying a piece of property there. And I think that was about 1970. The first time I remember seeing the property was when they paid for me to come down with my family and stay with them for a week or two. And it was kind of rugged because the place they bought at that time was not finished. It was really primitive, and there were no phones. It was ham radio. There was no electric or gas. It was generators and propane tanks. There was always an airstrip there, and it was pretty rugged, and they had this ramshackle little thing put up just to be funny and said airport. And we came to this island, and there was no way from the boat to get to your house except that Dad had a little wagon that he made, and my son, who was about 8 maybe, he put it around himself and carted it all the way to the house. We went to the beach. It wasn't far from the beach, and we just had a blast. It was wonderful. Kelly used to drive her little cars, matchbook cars, on the railing of the porch, and Dad would be underneath working, and he'd throw them back up to her, so I think she dropped more than she needed to. Nobody that lived full-time except Mom and Dad. It was all people that owned places and just came and stayed. Mom and Dad were the only and the first permanent residents on the island. They loved it. They absolutely loved the island. And Dad started to build his house. One day on their way into town, while they were in town, the home caught on fire and burned down. And they did lose 3 dogs in it, and they were just broken-hearted. Well, Dad just started all over again and built it all over again. He would put in the pilings by putting a pump on his hose and putting it down where he wanted the pilings to go, and it would open up a way for the pilings. He put them all in by himself. Dad loved to fish. He loved to catch snook and other fish. And he found a way of catching sharks. He loved catching sharks. He put a piling in near the beach, and it was probably about 4 foot out of the sand. And he'd put an inner tube over the piling, and he would hook rope or chain or whatever to it, and then a fishing line to that. And he'd get someone in a boat, he'd call them in from the water, "Hey, come here a minute." And they'd take the bait out to the deeper water, and he'd go upstairs and sit on the porch with a iced tea and watch or listen, because he had a bell on it too. And the bell would ring, he'd go downstairs and pull in his shark. He had asked if he could be a deputy sheriff because there was no one on the island that could take care of any problems. So he was able to do that. I don't know what training they had to give him, but he was a deputy sheriff. He patrolled the houses that the people were gone from. He would put sand at the bottom of their stairs, and he'd go over, and if there were any footprints in the sand, he'd go up and check out the house. Otherwise, he wasn't going to worry himself walking up and down the stairs. My mom, of course, came with Dad when he moved to the island, and she wasn't tickled about it. It was kind of, yep, this is what we're doing. So she went along, and when she was 70, she started schooling for a realty license, and she got it. And she wasn't happy working for someone else, so she went back and got her broker's license. So she had her own office in the basement, and she took people out, and everyone just loved Mom and Dad. Every year, Mom and Dad would send us tickets to come to Florida, the 5 of us, and so we'd come for vacations every year. And we had a great time. And at one point, they had ATVs on the island, and I almost put one in the water because I didn't quite turn where I was supposed to. But we had a great time. When Dad died, we brought Mom off the island immediately because she was kind of dependent on him. And after Dad died, we started doing reunions on the island. My brother owned the house next door, and then, of course, Mom owned the other one. And so we would have big reunions, and we'd rent another house, and we had about 30 people, usually on Memorial Day, and we changed it to Labor Day later on because of hurricanes. One day, I guess it was after Mom died, I asked Winton, what would you do if I died? Where would you live? Would you stay here? Nope, I'd get a fish farm. I said, well, why don't you do it now? Oh, so he went in North Fort Myers, and immediately we wanted it. He wanted a fish farm of fish you could eat, but this was a tropical fish farm, freshwater tropical fish. He loved it. He really loved it. He'd sit on a little bucket next to the fish ponds and bring them out in a net, and then he'd sort them, and he'd throw back the ones that weren't any good or that were too small or too big because you only had to have the perfect size to sell. And alligators would come up and go, arf, arf. And so he'd throw the fish that were wild fish over to the alligators, and they'd eat them. We saw a little baby cow, probably 3 days old, between the 2 fences. And when I got home, my husband said, you've got a baby cow to take care of because everyone else on the farm had jobs, not me. And I fell in love with her. She was red. And I called her Bambi because she looked just like a deer. Well, this Bambi is now 1,200 pounds, and she doesn't look like a Bambi anymore. She was my pet, my baby. Things are different on the island. Now you have telephones, you have, you don't really have cars and trucks like we had back then. You have just golf carts, and that's all that's allowed on the roads there. And it's pretty much the same in a lot of ways, and people still come for vacations and don't live there that much. I'm not sure how many people live there full-time now, but there are some. I guess it's called changes. I've had a lot of changes in my life, and they've been all cool. I like just about anything, but it was fun.
Do you have adventures from the early days of Southwest Florida, before we had things like highways and shopping malls and chain restaurants? Well, let us know about it. Contact me by phone at 489-8431 or by email, jaredpike@shellpoint.org. And let's relive those memories together. For now, it's time to cover all of today's happenings from Resort Services. Then stay tuned for your menu choices and Village Church connections.
Welcome to the Happening segment of Shell Point TV. It's Wednesday, September 4th. I'm Bev Chandley, and this is Suzanne Savada, and we're going to go over the activities offered through Resort Services here today. We're going to go down to the Osprey Room for men's Bible study at 7:45, and then at 8:45 we'll have the resident council meeting in the social center. At 9 o'clock, Jurassic Travel will be in the egret room with their weekly visit. Also at 9 o'clock, we have round robin men's doubles tennis down at the Woodlands Tennis Courts. 9 o'clock is also the time for the watercolor group with Phil Hilton. That takes place in the art studio down in the tunnel. At 9:15, the scrapbooking group will be in the tarpon room. At 10 o'clock, the ladies' Bible study will be in the Osprey Room on the island. At 10:15, the model yachts will be sailing at the Woodland Common Lake. Then we move to 11:30, where we have a Health Connections class, Specifics in Strength Training. That'll be in the Health Club. Currently, that is full. That's the morning lineup. Here's Suzanne, continuing into the afternoon.
Thanks, Bev. We'll start the afternoon off at 1 o'clock with chess being played in the library lounge on the island. At 1:45, we have a Health Connections Balance and Mobility Training Level 1 in the Health Club on the island, and this is closed. 2:30, Jazz and Stuff will be in the Grand Cypress Room at the Woodlands. And 3 o'clock, we have the Bible Study Group meeting in the Community Room of King's Crown on the island. Also at 3 o'clock, we have a Health Connections Pilates Stretch in the Health Club on the island. And at 3 o'clock, we have the Memory Care Group meeting on the 3rd floor craft room of King's Crown on the island. At 4 o'clock, Lily and Company Jewelers will be here for the weekly service in the Egret Room on the island. And at 4:30, we have indoor bocce in the Health Club on the island. 5:45 is the time for the church choir rehearsal in the choir room of the Village Church. And at 7:15, we have prayer and praise in the Village Church on the island. That's all for Wednesday. We hope you have a great day, and we'll see you back here for Thursday.
Menus for Wednesday. In the Crystal Room, the Crystal Platter is Salisbury steak with mashed potatoes and steamed broccoli. The dinner special is the pasta buffet for $10.95, and the soup of the day is black bean. In the Island Cafe for lunch on Wednesday, enjoy a barbecue bacon cheeseburger with onion rings for $6.95. For dinner, the special is fried shrimp for $7.95. All menus are available 24 hours a day at www.shellpoint.net.
Hi, I'm Randy Woods, and it's my privilege to serve as the Minister of Worship and Music at the Village Church. The other day, as I was reading Psalm 100, I was reminded that Thanksgiving is more than a great American holiday. In this biblical passage, the psalmist encourages us to enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to God and praise his name. Well, as we gather together each week for services at the church, it's my desire that each and every one would have a meaningful worship experience at the Village Church. Giving thanks is essential to having a meaningful worship experience. I know that the Thanksgiving season encourages everyone to express gratitude to God for the many blessings we enjoy. Family and friends, health and home, safety, and of course, God's sustaining grace identifies some of the blessings for which we are thankful. But true thanksgiving has no time limit. Thanksgiving flows out of a heart filled with gratitude. As we look around and see the beauty of creation, it's only natural to respond with wow. Like the hymn writer says, "Oh, Lord my God, how great thou art." And when we pause and count our blessings, certainly we express our gratitude to God for all that we enjoy. In 1978, a contemporary songwriter, Henry Smith, wrote the chorus, "Give Thanks." This chorus echoes the words of Psalm 126, "The Lord has done great things for us." This chorus also echoes the words of the prophet Joel, as he said, "Let the weak say, I am strong." There's another hymn, "O Sacred Head Now Wounded." That hymn identifies the issue of gratitude. One stanza in that hymn asks the question, "What language shall I borrow to thank thee, dearest friend, for this, thy dying sorrow, thy pity without end?" The hymn also offers this response, "O make me thine forever, and should I fainting be, Lord, let me never, never outlive my love to thee." I believe this text clearly speaks of thanksgiving and gratitude as a way of life. A life dedicated to God, exemplified in grateful service. Well, recently I had the joy of playing a piano duet with Nani Lett of Parkwood. She certainly is a fine musician, and together we played Andre Crouch's popular song, "My Tribute," also known as "To God Be the Glory." The Thanksgiving theme is also identified in this song, which raises the question, how can I say thanks for the things you have done for me? Things so undeserved, yet you give to prove your love for me. The voices of a million angels could not express my gratitude. All that I am and ever hope to be, I owe it all to thee. To God be the glory. Great things he has done. Well, both in one's own personal life and the life of a local church, there is a quest for meaningful worship. Thanksgiving is certainly characteristic of a truly meaningful worship experience. Here at the Village Church, through the songs we sing and the prayers we pray, our purpose in worship is to express our gratitude and thanksgiving to God. When we gather again this week, whether it's Sunday morning, Sunday evening, or Wednesday night, I invite you to join us as we unite our hearts and voices in grateful worship. Let's give God the glory he deserves and allow him to speak the truth of his word to us. Let's thank him for all he has provided in the yesterdays of our lives and trust him to meet our every need for today and the tomorrows he will give us. Come and join us at the Village Church as we grow in the grace and knowledge of the Lord. Together, let us rejoice and give thanks to God, for indeed, great things he has done.
We're glad you joined us for today's show. Tune in tomorrow as Sheila Sklar tells us how much fun it is to reminisce. We'll also visit 2 Shell Point establishments that are going strong, the Cafe Promenade and the Shell Point Gift Shop. Until then, this is Shell Point Today for Wednesday, September 4th. I'm Jared Pike, and from all of us here at Shell Point TV, we hope you have a great day, and we'll see you again tomorrow.